welcome to the Honours in Medical Sciences information session. I'm going to hand over now to Professor Mary Collins, who's head of the School of Medical Sciences, to give you a short welcome to the session and overview.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. It's a great day to come and see the wonderful science that we at the School of Medical Sciences can do. We're the top, we're the top university here in Australia, and the medical sciences is worldwide recognition. So welcome, have a look, you're going to enjoy that. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respect to the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today. We are meeting on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to pay my respect to those who have cared and continue to care for country. And they too have met here to discuss projects and look at the science of how they work, live, and enjoy life. So just remember that we are the School of Medical Sciences. We are actually in the Faculty of Medical Science and Health, but we do teach you for the medical science program and the majors, and that's how you're all here today. So welcome, enjoy the session where there's so much science from neuroscience, immunology, physiology, pathology, and chronic diseases. We've got so much on offer for you. Everyone in the school does research. And so just looking at what you like, what you love, and enjoy the year. It's a great year.
Thank you very much, Mary. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of the schedule for today. So from 1 to 2:15 p.m. is the Honours information session, which is the thing you're currently sitting in. And so obviously that's here in the lecture theatre. And then just outside the lecture theatre from 2:15 onwards to 3:30, we've got posters by current honours students, and there'll be a number of their honours supervisors around as well. So that's a good opportunity for you to check out some of the amazing research that our honours students are currently doing and speak to them about their projects and perhaps chat to a few of the honours supervisors as well. And there'll be afternoon tea provided, again, at the space outside the theatre, just at the back of this room. So just to introduce the admissions area and the admissions section of the Honours Working Group. I'm Dr. Carol Dobson-Stone, but I'm only just one of the admissions coordinators for this large programme. So we have me, and I'm in charge of the cell and developmental biology projects, medicinal chemistry projects, neuroscience and pharmacology projects. We also have Dr. Nick Hunt, who's here today, but just outside at the moment. And he deals with projects in areas of immunology, infectious diseases, and pathology. And we have also Associate Professor Liz Clark, who's here at the front and will be with the roving mic for questions later. And she deals with projects in the areas of applied medical sciences, anatomy and histology, and physiology. I should also mention that Dr. Grant Parnell is chair of the Honours Working Group, and so he has oversight of the whole business of the whole programme. But I guess me, Nick, and Liz are your first ports of call if you have specific project-related questions and application questions for a specific project. Then just check what honours area you're wanting to apply for and contact one of us, depending on the area. If you have a general query about applying for honours, but that's not tied to a specific project or area, then do please contact us using the email address at the bottom here, soms.honours@sydney.edu.au, and our admin team will be able to triage it to the appropriate person to answer your question. So there are a number of pathways that you can choose to get to study honours in the School of Medical Sciences, or SOMS. So I'll just go through the main ways to get here. Firstly, if you're a University of Sydney student doing the Bachelor of Advanced Sciences double degree with the Bachelor of Science, then you have the, if you want to do honours, what you will be doing is you'll be exiting with your Bachelor of Science, and then you can choose to either do honours, Bachelor of Advanced Studies honours, or Bachelor of Science honours. It's identical program, it's just the name that will actually appear in your transcript that's different. If you are already doing the single degree, at Sydney, doing a Bachelor of Science at USyd, or if you're doing the Bachelor of Science in the Medical Sciences program, you will choose the Bachelor of Science honours as your entry into honours. And if you're an external student, so a student for any other university, and you've got your Bachelor of Science or equivalent, then you too will also be selecting the Bachelor of Science honours. So I've got this third pathway, deliberately smaller, but it does cause a little bit of confusion because it is still available on the university website, and it's called the Bachelor of Medical Sciences. So I apologise for the slightly confusing nomenclature, but this is actually only for students who did the specific Bachelor of Medical Sciences degree, which was discontinued, I think, in 2018. So probably the vast majority of people here will not be, that will not be the case for you. And so you will not be selecting this option. So virtually the vast majority of people will be selecting the Bachelor of Science honours. So just go through slightly more detail. So if you're doing the Bachelor of Advanced Studies honours, the requirements is that you're already a student enrolled in that combined BAS degree, and that you're on course to complete a double major with 144 credit points completed by the end of this semester. Additionally, one of your majors should be in the School of Medical Sciences and ideally align with the honours area of the project that you want to do. You should have a WAM of at least 65 at the end. And most importantly, you should have spoken to a supervisor with a project that's been advertised in our honours portal, and that and have an agreement with them that they are going to host you for a research project. If you're a BAS student, you can opt to apply to do the Bachelor of Science honours instead. And whether you do the Bachelor of Advanced Studies honours or the Bachelor of Science honours makes absolutely no difference to us. It's the identical programme. But if you're confused about whether you might want to choose one or the other, you will have received an email from Sydney prospective students, I believe it was on the 20th of September, and that will contain both links to apply for those 2 degrees and also to get more information, and to book a consultation with someone, a one-on-one consultation, who can talk you through your options and which one might be best for you. But in essence, they're identical degrees. The actual program that you get to do at the end is the same. So for the Bachelor of Science honours, the requirements for the WAM and the supervisor are identical. Of course, you also need to have completed your degree, but the different requirement is that you need to have a Bachelor of Science degree or equivalent. And the link to actually apply for that is at the bottom here. So no matter which pathway you choose to get here, it's all the same honours programme. So what does it actually involve? So up till now, as a university student, you'll have a pretty good handle of what being at university involves. It involves going to lectures, going to seminars, going to tutorials, being handed assignments, asking questions in the lectures, getting those, doing lots of reading, and completing the assignments. But an honours programme is very different to that. So for the vast majority of your time, you will be working full time, and that means Monday to Friday, roughly 9 to roughly 5 for most of the research projects, working on your own piece of individual research, and it will be led by you and conducted by you. So it's very different to your for most of you, it will be very different to what you've experienced at university before. Here at the School of Medical Sciences, we feel it's important to equip you, as well as doing the research project itself, but want to equip you with skills that would be useful to you to actually conduct the experimental skills for your research project, but also give you the communication skills to enable you to be an effective scientist if that's what you choose to do with your career. And for that, we've designed 2 units of coursework that you'll do through your honours year, and they comprise 25% of your mark. So I've talked to you about the research project. So that's worth 36 credit points, 75% of your final mark. And most of that, 80% of that is made, will be assessed by your honours thesis. So this will be a 10,000 word thesis, presumably much larger in size than anything that you've prepared up to this date. And it will be marked by 2 examiners who aren't necessarily experts in the project itself. In fact, they likely won't be, but they are qualified to recognise good science and good communication of science when they see it. And that thesis will be due in November if you do honours starting in semester 1 next year, or if you do semester 2 commencing honours, that will be due in June. 25% of the research project mark will be for a final oral presentation. Now, this will be due about 1 to 2 weeks after your thesis submission. And the way we do it here is that you'll give a 15-minute oral presentation, and then nearly as long again, 10 minutes given over to question and answer session. Now, that might seem quite daunting, having 10 minutes being quizzed on your project by your examiners. But really, this is the opportunity for you to shine. The whole point of doing an honours project is not to be a robot doing everything your supervisor tells you without any kind of understanding of what the experiments are. You're not just following recipes like you're cooking and don't understand what's going on. It's a way to develop your skills on how to do troubleshooting, how to understand the rationale for doing your project, the literature that's been published before that gives you the background knowledge to kind of understand the context in which your piece of research stands and the significance that your results have to contribute to this body of knowledge. And so that question and answer session, by the time you actually get to the oral presentation, you will be an expert in your project and you will know much more about your project than anybody else in the room, with the exception of your supervisor. So it really will be your time to shine and to show off how much you know about the project. So moving on to the coursework. So as I said, it's split into 2 6 credit point units. SOMS 4101 will be done in your first honours semester, and SOMS 4102 will start in your second honours semester. So SOMS 4101 is called Research Skills for Medical Sciences, and the coordinator for this unit is Dr. Ashley Paparella. And the aim of this unit is to enable you to acquire experimental skills that complement your research project, basically. And also the kind of skills that will be useful for any research project. So you will be given guidance on how to design experiments. You will have an opportunity to develop your scientific writing skills, to collect the data, interpret it, and analyze and present it, and also to enhance your problem-solving skills and working together with the team to get your research outcomes. So for this unit, it is in face-to-face mode, and it's intensive mode over 4 weeks, commencing the 24th of February next year. And it's a semester 1A unit. So that means that the last day to enroll is the 24th of February as well. And it's really important to note that you have to have your semester 2 results back for all units by this date. So this is something to bear in mind as you reach the exam season for this semester. It becomes pretty hard to actually commence honours if you're doing replacement exams and you're not getting your results back in time before the next semester. So do bear that in mind when you're planning your exams. if you don't get your results back in time, unfortunately, we can't admit you into honours. And so you would have to think about commencing honours in the second semester. As I said, it's in face-to-face intensive mode. So I'm hoping you'll be planning a fantastic, relaxing break for yourself somewhere to celebrate finishing your degree. I thoroughly recommend you do that, but please do make sure that you are back in Sydney and ready to start on the 24th of February. So just to give you an overview of the unit, it's split up into several modules. So week 4 is compulsory and all students do these units, and they are all general units that are modules, sorry, that are of will be of use to you for any project. So we have work health and safety, research integrity, short course in biostatistics, so you can analyze your data, and an ethics course. Do have to note that this ethics module doesn't, if you're doing any project that requires animal handling or animal ethics, you will have to do an additional module in addition to this, but your supervisor will arrange this with you. For the rest of the weeks, for the first 3 weeks, you can choose which module you want from here. Now, the best thing to do is to speak to your supervisor to help you decide which units would actually best complement your research. So for example, if you were doing a research project in my lab and you were doing some DNA analysis, and then you were transfecting that DNA into some cells in tissue culture and then squishing open those cells and analyzing those cells by Western blot, I would suggest that you do the PCR genomics module in week 1, the cell culture module in week 2, and the Western blotting proteomics module in week 3. But yes, this is a conversation that's best had with your supervisor once you've decided on a research project. Now, the module details are available on this web page over here, so you can direct your supervisor to that page to get more background on what's actually going to be involved in each of those modules. So the way SOMS 4101 works is that you have for all of the modules, you have some pre-readings online with some formative quizzes. There's approximately 10 to 14 hours of face-to-face teaching per week, which will take place as lectures, seminars, or practicals, and there'll be in-class assessments, and each of those modules will lead to generating a final lab report. There'll be a final in-class assessment in the 5th week for all of those modules. And all the assessments will be completed by the end of week 5, which means that you should be able to commence your research project full-time from about the 26th of March. So the first 4 weeks of your semester will be taken up with this SOMS 4101. SOMS 4102 is called Communicating Ideas in Biomedical Science, and it's coordinated by Professor Andrew Harmon. And as the name suggests, it's been designed to help upskill you in scientific communication. It's so important as a scientist to be able to effectively communicate your research, because if scientists can't tell other scientists about their research or other people about their research, and the results they've got and the significance of those results, well, they may well not as well have done it because they're not going to be contributing to the general body of knowledge. So the way this unit works is that 25% is given over to an oral presentation of your research. That will be more like an introductory style oral presentation. But what it does mean is that by the time you do your final oral presentation, it isn't the first time that you've spoken up and talked about your research in a big room. So it's kind of to a large audience. So it's a great practice for that, if nothing else. But obviously, it's a good way of enhancing your oral communication. You will also be doing a poster presentation in a conference style setting. And in fact, that's exactly what the current crop of students are doing at the moment. So the first half of the honours students, they commenced in semester 1, 2024, and they're actually being examined by their posters right as we speak in this information session. And then another 40% of the mark is given over to what's called a research project showcase. And this is actually structured a bit like a mini grant application. And this is where you will lay out the scientific rationale for doing your project, why the techniques that were selected and justification for them, the expected outcomes that you expect to have from your research, and the significance, expected significance of this research. And it's a really important skill to have if you're going to have a career in science, especially as an academic researcher. You really need to be able to convince funding bodies of the importance of your research, because unfunded research does not get done. So this is a really, really important skill, and that's why we've included it in this unit. The last 10% of this unit is given over to participation in weekly seminars. So there are several research talks that are given all throughout the university, all throughout the year. And you will have the opportunity to attend either in person or via Zoom many talks that are given by researchers in the university or based in Sydney, or even international speakers. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to listen to world-class experts talking about their research. And in order to enable you to fully take part in this is why we've given some importance to actually attending some of these. So I think you'll be writing up your seminar attendance in a logbook. You need to attend at least 15 seminars through the year. Of course, you're welcome to attend as many as you like, but it needs to be at least 15. And you'll write up 4 of them in your logbook. So that would just be a summary of the talk, what questions you asked, and what responses the presenter gave to your questions. So that's the coursework discussed. What actual research areas can you work on? So as I mentioned with the admissions coordinator team, we've got the 10 different honours areas, which they align with the project that you'll be doing. And so the honours area is the thing that actually appears in your testimonial at the end of your degree. So if you select a project in the neuroscience honours area, you'll end up with a Bachelor of Science honours in neuroscience. So apart from the different areas, there's not much difference between how they actually are run, with the exception of medicinal chemistry, where the thesis is examined not by the School of Medical Sciences, but the thesis is examined by the School of Chemistry. And as well as the different honours areas, there's different domains of research that you can be involved in. Stretching all the way from basic research when you're looking to elucidate the underlying biology, the biological pathways that go wrong in the pathogenesis of a particular disease, moving through to clinical research, where maybe you're gathering data from patients and looking to see if there are differences between patients and controls in particular symptoms or presentations of disease. Bioinformatics and digital health, so data science, working in public health projects, so epidemiology of disease, and qualitative research and allied health, so for example, allied disciplines to medical science, such as physiotherapy or something. So there's a real breadth of projects available, both in terms of topic and in terms of research domain. Also, there's a breadth of projects in terms of geography. Obviously, you know all about the Camperdown campus because you're on it, but you can also undertake research in the Westmead campus. And in fact, the Westmead Health Precinct is the largest health precinct in the Southern Hemisphere. And it consists of several different research institutes and hospitals, including the Children's Hospital at Westmead, the CMRI, and the Westmead Institute for Medical Research, and all these other places. And it's a fantastic campus to do quality research. Also, as I mentioned, you've got Camperdown campus, and in addition to the main on-campus buildings, the Medical Foundation building and the Molecular Bioscience buildings, you can also do research in one of these institutes, for example, the Brain and Mind Centre, the Charles Perkins Centre, the Centenary Institute, and the Heart Research Institute. Other places you can go, the Anzac Research Institute, which is located at Concord Hospital, the Colling Research Institute, which is located on the North Shore, and the Safe Site Institute, which is at Sydney Eye Hospital. One thing I just wanted to reiterate is what I find so exciting about the Honours in Medical Science program is that the school has many different topics, many different research areas, but one thing that unites us all is that we're working on problems that affect real people. So whether you're doing basic science or clinical science or translational research, it all has its origins in an issue relating directly to human health. And we're very proud of the work we do at SOMS, especially the honours program. You really have the opportunity to contribute to research of the highest quality. So this paper is quite a few years old now, but everyone who's outlined in red here was an honours student. And so you can see here, we've sort of listed what they then went on to do. And, many of them went on to do a PhD. Some of them went overseas to do their postdoc. Some of them went into medicine. But it was a really great launching pad for their career. The other thing I wanted to point out, these people highlighted in green are overseas collaborators. So this was like a truly international research project involving international collaboration between many different labs. And these honours students made a really significant contribution to the project. You don't get given an authorship position on a paper just by turning up. You really need to have contributed a significant intellectual piece to the research study. And that's potentially an option for you guys. So this is another paper that's conducted partly by honours students. And I just wanted to point out here that this person here, the research they produced during their honours project was of significant enough contribution that they ended up being first author on the paper. So first authorship position on an academic paper is usually given over to people who have done the bulk of the research. So this student in their honours year managed to contribute a significant enough piece of work that they actually got a first authorship position. So you really have the opportunity to do something really meaningful. I'm talking all about this lab work and the significant research you'll be doing, and you'll be conducting it all yourself, and it will be directed by yourself. And that sounds great, but it can also sound a bit daunting. But don't worry, we're not going to tip you out into a lab and say, off you go, have at it. You'll be closely supervised by your honours supervisors. So you'll have a primary supervisor and an auxiliary supervisor. Very often the primary supervisor would be the head of the lab, and you might have an auxiliary supervisor who's a postdoc in the lab. But however it works, your supervisory team should be able to give you really good quality, close supervision. And the way it usually works is that you'll probably have almost daily supervision during the first part of your project, where you're learning the techniques that you'll be needing to acquire, to skill yourself up in order to do the project. But then as you gain confidence and ability to design your own experiments, it might, you probably won't be meeting day to day, but you'll be able to conduct your research pretty independently. And by the end, you'll probably be having weekly meetings to catch up with your supervisor to basically discuss how the week's research has gone, what the results were, if they worked really well, how do we design an experiment that builds upon those results, and if it didn't work very well, how we troubleshoot that and move forward for the next week. But it really will be an independent piece of work, but with the protection of having someone senior there to guide you along the way. Talking about guidance and sharing things, we also have a peer mentoring scheme. Now, this isn't really for academic guidance, but it's more support, I guess, who someone there to sort of offer advice and, you know, give you moral support, basically. So the way it works in our honours programme is that you'll be paired with a PhD student or a research assistant mentor, if you would like to take part, that is. But what these people have in common is that they have recently been an honours student. So they know what it's like, they've been there. They're not going to be connected with your research project. So they're not the kind of person to go, oh, what concentration should I use for this buffer or something like that. It's more like, oh, it's really getting me down this experiment. I keep doing it again and again and it's not working. Or guess what? It finally worked. I'm so excited. It's, you know, someone else that you've got to basically share the highs and lows of your year. And talking of sharing, we also have the Honours Society. It's run by PhD students, but also honours students. So if you're interested in organising people to do fun stuff together, some movie nights or trivia nights, general get-togethers, if you would like to be involved in organising that, then please do put your hand up. That would be fantastic. If you just want to turn up, that's fine too. But it's just a way so that you can get to know your other students, and not just the students in your building or your lab, but the students in the whole program. So talking of sharing with students, we're now going to have a student who did honours in 2020, I believe. Samantha Hefferon. So she did her honours in 2020, and she's currently a PhD candidate based at the Colling Institute of Medical Research. So I'll hand over to Samantha now. Oh, hang on. This one. Just can you just click the green one? Yeah. Right here. Yes.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. You have to ignore my voice because I'm kind of losing it at the moment, but we'll see how I go. Just check this is working. Excellent. So yeah, my name is Samantha Hefferon. You might recognize one of my supervisors as Liz. You probably all recognize her name. And I did my honours research project at Colling Institute, so over at Royal North Shore Hospital on level 10, and I'm still there currently doing my PhD, which is due in about a month. So let's just talk through a bit of my journey. So I did start my Bachelor of Medical Science here at USyd in 2017. 2020 was my honours year. And as I said, I am now doing my PhD and coming very close to the end of that. But I believe there was probably some changes that have happened since I did my honours. So some of the things I might say might not reflect directly to the processes that you go through, but still definitely things that you should consider in terms of choosing your project and where you want to see yourself for the next year. So when we were in beginning of our degree, we all got asked this survey question as to where you wanted to see yourself at the end of your bachelor degree. And of course, like most people, I was one of the people who put my hand up and said, I wanted to do medicine. Yeah, I'm sure most of you, hands up, who wants to do medicine here? No? Oh, maybe things have changed in times. But yeah, for our cohort, it was pretty much everyone. Like no one wanted to go into research. Everyone kind of hated the idea of research, definitely at the beginning of their degree. But you guys are all at the end of your degree, so that's obviously a different stage of your life. But in the first 2 years of my honours, like I said, I pretty much had zero intention to follow anything to do, not honours, my bachelor's, anything to do with research. Yeah, I was zero interest. I was pretty much Woody in this picture, was like, gross, who would want to do that? I couldn't really think of anything worse. However, I got exposed to a bit of research in my third year during a certain course, and our coordinator is actually sitting up the back, Paul up there, so you can go talk to him afterwards if you want. And we pretty much, as part of the advanced course, we got a little bit of like a taste as to what research was just for a couple of weeks. And it was like, there was no assignments, no grades associated with this. It was purely just an experience-based thing. And it really shows you what research is all about, very much beyond the stress of exams and having to be assessed on the work that you're doing. Following on this, I got involved in some discussions, obviously with Paul being the main person who kind of like pushed me into what are the benefits of doing an honours year and how it can help me not only in terms of thinking about an academic career, but also medicine as well. Like honours is a very valuable resource to have when you're going into that medical career pathway as well. So one thing I want to kind of point out is that don't think of honours just as like a filler year if you are one of those people who are trying to get into honours. So you really want to make the most into medicine. You really want to make the most out of the experience and go into it for the right reasons, because then it's going to make your experience and your supervisor's experience a lot better. What do I have to? Yeah. It's not changing. It's not changing now. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. Same thing here. So pretty much what you need to think about is what kind of projects you want to be involved in. And a lot of thought should go into this. It shouldn't just be like skimming the project outline and be like, that one. Yep. It's not going to end well for you if you do it that way. You've got to think about what your intentions are. Be honest about whether you want to see yourself in an academic PhD, maybe doing postdoc later, or if you want to get into medicine. So obviously, like I said, times have changed. You have a lot better resources now available to you. You have a whole list and a whole portal to do in terms of choosing your projects. When I was around, it wasn't really the case. There was a few projects listed, very hard to find, very hard to understand what was on offer. And so I went down a different route and actually started talking to supervisors and lab heads and trying to figure out who's doing what kind of research, and then asking, do you have a project for me? Can I get involved in that? And so one thing that I kind of recommend to all of you is to be a little bit proactive as well, because I did this during my STUVAC when I was meant to be studying, and look deeper into the projects that are available to you and look into the research. And we got like we've mentioned before, all the posters outside will show you kind of what those research groups are involved in and what kind of avenues you can go. And who knows, you might find some of the supervisors out there who might be able to talk to and say, what is this project? And can you give me more detail than what is spewed out onto the page that you get to choose your projects from? So it's pretty much the big tip is to look for a field that you're interested in, not just a project. And also make sure that you can understand what kind of environment the lab is as well. So talking to the supervisors is a really good way to get to know whether you're going to fit in, but also talking to past students as well, seeing what their experience was, what they liked, what they didn't like, what their recommendations are. So a little bit about my project. I'll skip through here. So my research involves understanding the structural characteristics of tendons. I did a lot of histological work. It's pretty much the primary technique that I used in order to understand differences between different tendons, within tendons, whether there's regional variations. And ultimately what this research means is we can have that background information to understand why different tendons might be prone to different injury, pathology, disease, and understand where we can translate that into like clinical settings, such as managing these things or understanding where to go with graft replacement and the orthopedic setting, which was very much interesting to me as someone who wanted to end up in medicine. I did my honours in 2020. It was a bit of an issue that happened during that year, as you probably all remember. I ended up having to do a lot of my project at home, alone, not really working 9 till 5. It was more like midnight till all hours of the morning. Like I said, I went into this knowing what I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to get that experience in the lab work. So I actually ended up taking a microscope home and trying as best as I could to still embrace that experience and learn what I could from the whole year, rather than just going down what other people did, was just like literature reviews and stuff, which bored the hell out of me. Yes, I did a lot of my work independently, but I did have a really good support team supporting me. So my supervisors were very active online, helping me. We had sessions where I was in the lab alone in isolation, looking at the microscope, and they were on Zoom at home, like following what I was doing and guiding me through things. So it's really important for you to be able to find that kind of support network. So what can we gain out of this? Obviously, going through. There's a lot of things you can gain out of doing an honours year. So engaging critical thinking is one of the first skills that you'll probably learn to develop, which you don't really do in your spoon-fed lectures. Yeah. Another one is finding the confidence in order to be able to put forward your own ideas, that it's not just following, like we said, the recipe of what a project is these are your ideas and you need to be able to embrace that. And this is a skill that you'll be able to learn through during an honours project. Working collaboratively as well is a really good skill that you'll be able to get that you don't really get to experience much in undergrad. Networking skills is probably the biggest thing. Learning how to network, reach out, definitely working with international collaborators. I got the chance to go to New Zealand for 3 months to work over there, which was a really great opportunity. And that kind of stemmed from my PhD project, which is literally just an extension of my honours work. Communication skills is another good one. I'm still working on it, but it is something you will develop. Learning to navigate and troubleshoot issues as they arise. So like I said, I pretty much had COVID decide to ruin my whole project and everything had to change. What I put in my project proposal just went down the drain instantly. And I had to learn to work around that. But even then, the project itself had issues. We're still working on developing methods that took 4 years to like refine and fine tune. And I'm sure Liz has been through that pain with me. And the last one is just to gain the personal rewarding experience that you get out of all these things and enjoying the moment while you're there, enjoying what it's developed for you and where it can take you in the future. So yeah, not only does honours help you to stand out from the crowd from a professional point of view, it also helps you to improve on the knowledge skill sets that you have. And ultimately, this can help you accomplish any task that you put ahead of you. It's really just building your professional skill set so you can be able to face other things in future as well. So it's definitely something that you want to consider when you go into the project. What skills are you looking to get and what can the supervisors and the labs and the skills that you'll be using, like the techniques, what are they going to benefit you in the future? So yeah, obviously where I am now, I'm continuing my honours project pretty much 4 years down the track. It's the same project, it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. But not only did the honours lead me into my PhD, but also led me into other things through that networking skills. So I ended up with a lot of tutoring roles because I was upfront and honest about the fact that I wanted to do medicine. So my supervisor were like, great, so we'll connect you with these tutoring roles. I did a lot of anatomy workshops. I also got a job at the Surgical Skills Centre in our institute, which again has helped my career prospects of going into medicine, even though I'm still in the academic field. So yeah, very much going to help me get my journey to where I want to be a doctor. But it's also changed my outlook on what I think about research. Yeah, it's a very valuable skill, very valuable experience for me, even though it wasn't where I saw myself before. And I definitely enjoyed the fact that I was able to continue on with it. So yeah, some things to definitely consider before you choose and finalize your project. Know what your goals are, know what the experience it is that you want to get, but also what experience the prospective supervisor and that lab group can give you. You need to be matched up to the group well. We had a lot of people in our cohort that ended up dropping out because there was just no connection. Obviously, COVID was another issue, but they didn't have that support that they needed. They didn't click well with the group. There was a lot of dropouts. But if you can see that up front and make sure you find that connection at the beginning, you'll be much better off. And very importantly, make sure you're just interested in the field. You don't want to be stuck headfirst doing something that is just boring to you because you're not going to get through it. And you're going to probably end up dropping out as a result. You want to be really engaged with the project, find a passion that is your passion and follow through with that. But yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone afterwards as well. Thank you very much. Sorry for the voice.
Thank you so much, Samantha. That's fantastic. So. Okay, so you've heard all about how exciting honours can be and you're raring to go. So what are the steps actually involved in applying for honours in medical sciences here at the university? There are a number of steps, but don't worry, I'll walk you through them. So the very first step is actually to find a research project. And if you registered for this meeting, you should have received an email from me giving you the link to our Honours Project search portal, this web page here. And this is where you can actually search to find an Honours project. So there are, this is the landing page for the portal. You can search by the title, any keywords for the project. So if you're interested in dementia, you can write in dementia or cancer. You can also select by honours area. There's a drop-down menu here. So if you're determined that you absolutely want to do a project in neuroscience, you can just select by honours area there. If you're really excited about working at Westmead, for example, you can pick a lab location here. If you have a particular supervisor that you know you're really interested in doing a project with, then you can select them here. And then you can click the search button to come up with the projects. So this is how the search results page looks. It displays the number of projects that have been found according to your criteria. And you can show this show detail toggle here enables you to view a synopsis of each of the project areas. But this little panel here gives you the overview of the project, the details of each project, and you can click the view details that gives you the rest of the information. So this is the rest of the information you'll get here. So obviously the title and the location. This is the primary supervisor. And then you can click on this link and then that sends you to the academic profile page of that supervisor. So you can have a look at their recent publications, for example, or their other research interests. You have a short synopsis of the project and the honours areas that it's available in, the keywords and the auxiliary supervisor team. And then if you click this link here, that will give you the supervisor's email address. So you can get in touch with them to actually, if the project interests you, you can actually get in touch with them to arrange a meeting either face-to-face or via Zoom to do to meet up to discuss the project. Once you've actually spoken to a supervisor and they have agreed to host you for a project for semester 1 next year, you can click the apply button to actually send your expression of interest. So there are instructions of what to do, the order of which to do here. But it's very important that you don't actually click this apply button until you have got an agreement from your primary supervisor to host you for this project. There will be an apply button that will go live on about the 11th of October underneath each project. But I've gone forward slightly. Step 1B is obviously to discuss the research project with the supervisor, which I've mentioned, of course. So this is a step that most students tend to do with about 3 or 4 research projects. So they'll have searched through the portal, found 3 or 4 projects that sound really interesting to them, and then reach out to the supervisors for those projects. So for some of you guys, if you've already seen a few projects that you're interested in, you may well find the supervisors for those projects here. There's a lot of the honours supervisors who've got projects for the semester 1 2025 cohort have students who are in the semester 1 2024 cohort. So you'll be able to find the students for those supervisors here. And this is great because you can ask them, so what's so-and-so really like? And if the supervisor's not around, they'll probably tell you the truth about them. So it's a great way of actually getting to know what it's like to work in the lab, you know, what the research project's like, what the facilities are like. If you haven't actually, if the supervisor's not here, that's fine too. You can just email them after the meeting to request a face-to-face or a Zoom meeting to discuss the project, as I mentioned. One thing I do want to say is that next week is actually Wellbeing Week at the university, and we are trying to reduce communications. So do not be offended if a prospective supervisor doesn't get back to you next week. We're all trying to limit non-essential communications to just sort of quieten the email traffic a little bit. So, but from the following week onwards, they'll get back to you to arrange a time to catch up to discuss the project. Now, if you're going to be contacting 3 to 4 projects, 3 to 4 supervisors to discuss, remember on the flip side, most of the supervisors offering projects will be contacted by multiple students. So it's not enough to just rock up and say, hey, I like the title of your project. Tell me what's going on. I know nothing about your lab. I know nothing about you. You need to prepare a little bit. Just treat it a little bit like a job interview. So that's not to say that you need to read every single paper that the supervisor's ever published, but have a look at their academic profile page at the university, have a look at a couple of those most recent papers, the ones that sound like they're most linked to the research project you're interested in. You can have a browse through the papers just to get an idea of maybe the kind of techniques are being used. It would be good to be able to articulate why you want to do the project. For me personally, when I choose students, obviously how well they've performed in their degree is important, but it's really important to me that the student's enthusiastic, because you'll be spending a lot of time doing your honours project. And if you're doing it, if I feel like the student's kind of doing it under sufferance, I won't necessarily pick them for the project. So, and you know, ask some questions about the research and anything that's not clear to you about what would actually be involved in the project. It's a good time to talk about it now. What kind of techniques, if there's a specific skills that you're interested in acquiring, make sure that you understand what skills are going to be taught to you during the project. Also, this is the best time to discuss, for example, we understand that Sydney is a very expensive city, and there are only a very lucky few students who can get by an entire year of doing honours without having to do any external work in order to support their studies. So we do understand that people have jobs outside the honours projects, but just remember, it is a full-time commitment, and there are several projects where you do have to be in Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, roughly 9 to roughly 5. And so if you, you just need to keep in mind that any external work you do has to fit around your honours project. So we don't begrudge you working, of course, but some projects are more flexible than others. So you do need to discuss that at this stage. It's kind of too late by the time you've agreed to do the project and you're starting. If your external work requires you to not be able to do it at evenings and weekends exclusively, then you need to discuss that with the supervisor. Likewise, there are some projects that are more flexible than others, but there are also some projects that may require you to occasionally come in the weekend. For example, animal work. Animals don't tend to confine their feeding needs to business hours. So there'll be some projects where you will occasionally be required to come in the weekends, or occasionally required to work in the evening or something. But that's something that the supervisor will know about in advance, obviously, so you'll be able to talk to them. So a good question to ask would be, tell me what a typical week would look like for this project. So Samantha's given you some great tips about how to choose a research group. And one thing I really want to emphasize that she pointed out is you've got to choose a field of research that excites you. So ideally, it will align with your major. So if you did honours in cell and developmental biology, then you'll do a project in cell and developmental biology. That's not actually necessary, but it is helpful. And certainly if you are worried that your WAM is more on the borderline, it's important that you do a project that involves units that you did well in during your degree. And something I should actually mention, that if you're concerned that your WAM is going to be borderline, so near that 65 mark, do come and speak to reach out to one of the admissions coordinators for advice on picking a project, because the actual field of the project that you pick is more important in those circumstances. And also for the supervisor as well, because even if your WAM is on the lower side, if they can see that you've done really well in units that are actually really useful to the project, then they may well still consider you as a suitable candidate. But yeah, pick an area that that excites you, most importantly, because you will be doing it day in, day out for about 8 months, and it will get boring very quickly if you're not interested in the project. So to have something that you feel pretty interested in and passionate about, and you'll get so much more out of the project from that. Secondly, find a productive group. So you can check out the supervisor's UCID profile page and just check that that there are some recent publications there and they're of decent quality. The atmosphere in the lab is the conditions of the lab is another good thing to look out for. So you can ask. Speaking to students, and this is where this poster session networking session is going to be really helpful to you. You can speak to current students who are in the group, ask what it's like to work there. Are there any supportive senior lab members either in the specific group itself or in the lab space that they share? Because it's really important to have other people that are available for on-the-ground support, because quite often your primary supervisor won't necessarily, if they're more senior, they won't necessarily be in the lab every day. And you can ask the supervisors what their former honours students are doing now, just to get an idea of what sort of pathway it might set you up for. Although obviously every student is different, but these are some kind of things to bear in mind when you're choosing a project. So you've chosen a project, you've spoken to the supervisor, they've agreed to host you for the project. So once you've got that support, the next step is to lodge your expression of interest. So the deadline for doing this is the 13th of December this year. So you've still got plenty of time, but please don't leave it to the last minute, because it gets stressful for everyone, especially us on the admissions team. But so the expression of interest can be submitted using that same honours search tool, so that search portal. One thing that's important to note is that you need to select the version of the project that's got the honours area that you want to appear on your testimonial. So for example, here, the project, it's the identical project, it's just been offered under multiple different honours areas, which is true of most of the projects that we've got online. So if you want to have honours in neuroscience written on your transcript at the end, select this version. And if you want to have honours in pathology on your transcript, then select this version. So once you click on the project, you'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and there'll be 2 apply buttons. So if you are a current UCID student or you have been a UCID student recently and you've got a uni key, you click this button. And if you are not a UCID student and have not been a UCID student, you will click this button on the right. It's really important to remember this is not the end of the enrollment process. So this expression of interest is basically a form to inform us, the School of Medical Sciences, that you intend to apply to the university for honours in our programme. So if you're a UCID student, if you're clicking with your uni key, the project information and your information will be pre-filled. And so you'll just need to fill out a few more details. If you're an external student, the project information will be pre-filled, but you'll need to fill in your information and you'll need to upload your latest academic transcript. Then at the bottom of the form, you'll need to select the SOMS 4101 modules. So in the conversation, once you've had agreement from the supervisor to host you in the group, then you need to discuss with them what modules would be best to do in SOMS 4101. It may be that the that the supervisor says. None of them are super specific to the project, so you can choose whatever you like. But more often, they'll be able to give you some guidance on which ones would work best to complement your project. So you'll select the modules that you want to do, and then you can press submit. It's really important. This page will come up and you'll be given a reference number. Please note that down, because if you don't, you should also receive an acknowledgement email once you've actually submitted your expression of interest. If you don't receive that email, then it's possible that there's been a technical glitch with submitting your project, with submitting your EOI, or perhaps the email address that was entered was incorrect in some way. If that happens, then we've got no way of getting in contact with you, and there's no guarantee that your expression of interest has gone in. So please, if you don't receive an acknowledgement email, please do email soms.honours to let us know and quote the reference number that you've got for your EOI. So you submitting the EOI will send an email to the supervisor to inform them to go into their portal and click accept. So once they've done that, you will receive an email confirming your honours area and the SOMS 4101 modules that you've selected, and there will be a PDF confirmation of supervision attached to that email. It's important to keep that PDF because you need it later on in the application process. And so this is an example of what the PDF will, looks like. Now, you can only submit one expression of interest, and so that's why we say that you need to have got confirmation from the supervisor that they agree to host you in the project before you actually click submit, because if they accept and you haven't actually had a discussion with them, you don't have the opportunity to submit another EOI. So make sure you've had that conversation first. However, we understand that sometimes things don't go quite as you planned. Then you may have had your heart set on one project, but then something happens and you end up going with a different project. Or you might decide, actually, I'm not going to do honours. I'm not going to do honours at all, or I'm not going to do it this semester. I'm going to have to defer. If that is the situation for you, you do need to withdraw your expression of interest. And the reason you need to withdraw it is because when you have an expression of interest accepted, that removes the project from the search portal. So it means that no other students can actually view it and apply for it. So it's important to withdraw the project withdraw your EOI so that the project can become available for other students to apply for. And the way you do that, if you're an internal student, and you just can go back into the honours search portal and click apply for any project, and it will come up with your expression of interest that you've already got in, and then you just click the withdraw button. If you're an external student, you'll have to email soms.honours and just give the name of the reference number for the EOI and say, please, can I withdraw this EOI? We do ask that if you do change your mind and don't want to do honours, please let us know as soon as possible. It's absolutely fine. We always have a few students that change their mind. Completely understandable, but it would be great if we know sooner rather than later, just so that we can release that project to be available to other students. So step 4 is to submit your formal application for admission to the university. So at the start, I mentioned students with the BAS degree. If you've got a BAS degree, you will have received an email from Sydney prospective students with the application links within that email, according to whether you want to do the BAS honours or BSc honours. If you're applying for the BSc honours, if you've done a Bachelor of Science, separate Bachelor of Science, including those doing the Bachelor of Science in the Medical Sciences programme, you'll use this link to apply. And the deadline for doing this for all students is the 15th of January next year. So the deadline's 15th of January. That's not the date to aim for. That's the very last date that is possible to do it. So we encourage you to you don't need to wait for your exam results. We encourage you to actually do it beforehand. What will happen is if you if your application gets processed before you have your exam results, you'll get a conditional offer, which will then be converted to an unconditional offer once you receive your results and it's confirmed that you've satisfied your degree requirements. 2 things to make sure for the application. You need to make sure that you apply for the same honours area that you selected for the project. So if your project is in pathology, then you need to select honours area, your first honours area is pathology. And you need to attach that PDF confirmation of supervision, because that's the proof of the correspondence with the supervisor. And then once the exam results are released, successful applicants will be made offers to allow enrolment into the honours project and formal enrolment into the coursework units. And then the last step is to start your project. The earliest that you can do it is the 3rd of February, but you can only do that if you are already involved and therefore insured to attend the university. So if you've done an internship at the lab, perhaps over the summer as a summer research project, that's great. And if that's something that your supervisor is amenable to, that's fantastic. Gives you some experience if you want it. But you can't include any of that work that you've done there in your thesis. So any work done before the 3rd of February can't be counted in your thesis. Then from the 24th of February to the 25th of March, you'll be doing the SOMS 4101, and you'll have an orientation on the 21st of February over Zoom. And on the 26th of March, you'll start the research project. So that's everything. We have a few minutes left for questions. Liz, if you've got the mic, and Grant, you've got a mic as well. Does anyone have any questions? There's someone at the back there. Do you wait till the mic gets to you, just so that we can capture the question for the recording?
Hi, I have an admin related question.
Admin related question? Yep.
Yeah, I changed my majors, so I'll be finishing with 150 credit points at the end of this semester. So does that affect my enrollment in honours, or do you know what I have to do about that?
So were you approved for a degree overload? Do you know?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I would speak to an academic advisor just to check that that by the end of this semester that you have satisfied the degree requirements and that you are approved to complete your degree with the units, and it might be that you have to exclude a unit of study. But yeah, just check, make an appointment with the student centre, I think is your best port of call for that. It's not necessarily a barrier at all. We've had students come in with 150 credit points before, I think. But you do need to just check that you've met your degree requirements, and that's we can't tell you specifically for your degree whether you've satisfied the requirements. So you just need to run that past an academic advisor who would be able to help you with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, there's someone there at the back on the right.
So in terms of projects, if you meet with a supervisor and there's something that, say, there's some sort of amendment or some sort of like slight difference to the like proposed project on the portal, and they agree to like do that with you, the supervisor, would you still be applying for the project listed on the portal through that way? Like, would that change the application process at all?
It depends what you mean by slight change, I guess.
Okay.
So the projects that are approved have gone through quite a lengthy approval process.
Right.
And the reason for that is we want to make sure that the projects are of high quality, of potentially publishable results, because we don't want you wasting your time, basically.
Yeah.
But also that they've got the supervisor's got sufficient funding and they've got any necessary ethics required for the project.
Okay.
So I guess if the project has been very slightly changed, then but could still be adequately described by the title that has been given to the project, then that's fine. That won't be an issue.
Okay.
But it would be a case of you could get the supervisor to get in touch with us because we don't tend to allow very significant changes.
Okay.
That makes sense, because the project that's been approved. Yeah, especially if it
It's already
requires
gone through that.
ethics, it still needs to be covered by the ethics.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, another question?
I just want to clarify, for the advanced studies degree, I know we were sent an email to apply. We do that after the EOI has been approved, right?
The application to apply is after the EOI.
Oh.
That's right. That's right. You can book a consultation to choose what you are going to do, whether you're going to do BAS honours or BSc honours.
Okay.
And I'd recommend that you do that so that you can just chat to someone so that you can decide, because we as in the SOMS admissions team can't advise you on whether you'd be better off having written on your transcript BAS honours or BSc honours. That's something that's best discussed with them. But you should all have received an email. If you're doing BAS, if you're enrolled in BAS and you're on track to finish at the end of this year, you should all have received that email, I think on the 20th of September. Please do get in touch with us if you did not receive that email, because we'll need to alert Sydney prospective students so that they can get in touch with you and generate your application link, because I think you have all been given in that email specific application links that are specific to you. But that formal application is the step that you do after submitting the EOI, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Question at the back there.
Hello. So I was just wondering how relevant your major has to be to a particular project, and whether a potentially irrelevant major would harm sort of admission to a project. I'm doing an arts major, so it has nothing to do with any of the projects besides, I guess, communication. So I was wondering if that would be an issue.
Have you done science units in your degree?
Yeah. So I'm doing a medical science degree, but my second major is
Oh,
an
your
arts
second major?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So you've got a major that is a scientific major as well?
Yeah, it's the medical science stream.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And if you're confident that your WAM is going to be well over 65 by the end, then we'd recommend that the major aligns with your project, but it doesn't have to. Just remember that each supervisor will be contacted probably by multiple students. So you kind of need to show that you've got some background, that either you've got a good background in the project through the units you've done, or I guess that you're a stellar student who's very quick to learn, even though the units you've chosen aren't necessarily aligned with the project. But if you're confident that your WAM's going to be well over 65, then as long as you have a major that as a double degree student, as long as one of your majors was in medical sciences, then you don't have to pick that major as your honours area.
Thank you.
All good.
I was just going to jump in on that point as well, Carol. And I guess don't be, alarmed or concerned if potential supervisors do ask you for a copy of your transcript. I guess the main reason for that is they just want to see what your units that you've completed throughout your degree have been, so they get a good understanding of what your background is. So they'll sort of know, one, where to start the conversation, and also, if you're a good fit for the project. So they're not going to be looking very closely at what every single mark you've got since first year. It's more just, the types of units that you've taken throughout your degree, so they get a good idea of, what background you're coming in with.
Great. Yeah. In fact, if you wanted to, you could attach a copy of your transcript when you're getting in touch, so that they can kind of see at a glance whether you've got a reasonably good background in the kind of project that they're offering. Yep.
I was just wondering if there's any scope to complete projects that aren't listed on the portal itself. Like, say if you've reached out to a professor that you've really enjoyed learning from and are interested in kind of some of the research they're doing, is there any scope to do a project in that field, even if it's not one that's listed on the portal?
You are probably too late to do one for semester one, but certainly if you are interested in a project, it depends on the eligibility of the supervisor as well, because we don't allow everybody in the university to be a primary supervisor for a SOMS project. So the majority of the primary supervisors are actually academic staff members or affiliates of the School of Medical Sciences. So that's one restriction, or they teach into the School of Medical Sciences. But so if there's a project that you're really interested in and there's an eligible supervisor, but the project isn't available, you could discuss with them whether they would be willing to make a project like that available in time for potentially semester 2, because we have certain cutoff times when we actually ask the supervisors to submit the projects. And that's because it just takes a while to go through the approval process for these projects.
Okay, thank you.
This question down the front.
On the Bachelor of Science Honours page on the UCID website, it poses an alternative degree in the graduate diploma. Who can we reach out to discuss that pathway?
You can contact one of us if you like to talk about that. It's not supported by I can't remember what the wording is, but it ends up being more expensive for you, but it might be and in terms of fees. But if that's an alternative option that you can certainly consider if you're not eligible through the standard stream.
Okay, thank you.
And you would need to, so the actual research program that you do is identical. You would just need to speak to your supervisor, a potential supervisor, so that they'd understand that you were going through the graduate diploma stream rather than the honours stream.
But the content that you study is exactly the same?
It's identical. It's identical, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe just in terms of time, one more question at the back.
Okay.
Just before finish, this isn't the last time you can ever ask questions. Obviously, I'll be out in the coffee session, the networking session afterwards. But
so just in terms of the modules that we do, so you have the ones where you have 1 week where you learn PCR or whatever you choose. Do you get any sort of record to say that you've been trained in that technique, or is it just more for your honours project you've learnt it? Is there any sort of is it just purely for your project?
That's a really good point. I think
Okay.
on your transcript, the modules aren't listed, so it's just SOMS 4101 that's listed.
Okay.
Of course, in your resume afterwards, you can say that you selected those modules.
Yeah.
Obviously, although it gives you a good grounding, it's going to be 1 week
1 week
of
yeah,
experience. So it pales into insignificance compared to the actual techniques you do during your project.
Okay.
And most of the older supervisors would be more than happy to provide a reference based on the techniques that you've done during your project.
So it's more of an introduction to that technique.
Yeah.
Week. Okay.
So if there are modules that are relevant to your project, pick those. If
Mm.
none of the modules in a particular week are relevant, pick something you're interested in.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, as I said, I think we'll conclude so that you get some time to chat to students. Thank you very much for attending. If you've got any other questions, come and ask one of us outside or shoot us an email. Happy to answer. Okay, thanks a lot.